For those of you just joining us, we are Back Issues, and we have Tim, Mel, Isaiah, and Braye here to present to you the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
We just did number 2.
You're welcome.
We're 2/3 of the way through it.
Yeah.
And we
well,
After we did number
killed
2,
anybody
we
yet.
cleaned it up.
yeah.
So you don't have to.
How's
That's-
everyone feeling?
That's
My back
subject-
hurts.
Your back always hurts.
It's subjective as to if anything is dead or
Really
not.
hurts.
My spirit might be dying a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, I
It's
think
totally fine.
Braye had about 3 manic meltdowns throughout
Yeah,
the film.
maniacal laughter erupted
Yeah.
a few times.
Yeah.
Do check out the podcast.
Yeah, check out our commentary track for Spider-Man 2
feel like that
and
one
Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 is yet again a lot of me talking. A lot.
And surprisingly, a lot of me agreeing.
Yeah.
That's spooky.
Yeah, we did agree quite a lot in both Spider-Man 1 and 2, which does not normally happen.
No,
so,
does not
Yeah,
normally
strange
happen.
vortex.
You know what
It's
I
like we're in
liked
a different
about
world.
watching it with you though? Like I expected to go into it and be able to like defend it a little more than I was able to, but I was like, yeah, you know what? It's not.
He's got some good
Yeah,
not wrong,
yeah,
you know?
it's true. You're
To be-
kind of right.
To be fair though, like I've been thinking about this for nigh on 3 or 4 months now since I rewatched Spider-Man 2. Like when I rewatched
Like
Spider-Man 2.
seriously thinking about
I-
it.
I-
Like,
I-
I feel like you've been like it's on the back burner of
Yes.
like
yes.
a splinter in your brain ever
It-
since you originally watched it.
Yeah, totally. But it's been brought up amongst us
Countless
a few
times. I
yeah,
think, yeah.
while we've been doing previous episodes, and I've refused to say anything. So it's been kind of cathartic, but also agonizing
Now
to go
it's
through
now it's
this.
like a waterfall. It's just all coming
It's all
out.
coming
It's
out.
just not stopping. Yeah.
So would you like to kick us off, Braye?
Yeah.
Yes, please do.
Okay, let's do that.
This is therapeutic for me.
This is the what you liked about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for those of you joining us for the
Really
first
like
time, we like to start off on a positive note. We like to start with what we liked with the movie.
The end.
Okay, now Tim, what do you think?
No, that's okay. It wasn't. Go on.
I don't really know what I like about this movie. Okay, I'll list off. Similar to Spider-Man 1, there's a few performances that I like. Rosemary Harris, she's my MVP for Aunt May. She does really well in all 3 of these movies. This one, I think she has some great moments where we get to see the struggle of her without Uncle Ben, which we didn't really see in the first one. And I will give it to Alfred, I can never remember his... Molina, yeah. I will give it to him in the sense of, I feel like his portrayal of Doc Ock is great. Like, I really like his performance. So, yeah, that's it. That's all.
That was it?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Sorry.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll throw it in. Some parts of the fight scenes with Spidey and Doc Ock are really cool. Like, very CGI, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they are very much like what I've seen in comic books and the animated series. And there's some joy in that. Don't watch the 2.1 cuts.
Don't
of
watch
them.
Yeah,
Don't
don't do
watch
it.
it. It's not worth it.
Save your 18
Yeah,
minutes.
viewers
Yeah.
note, we
15
watched
minutes, yeah.
we watched the Spider-Man 2.1 version, not the theatrical release, and it was a
It like
Bad decision.
unpresses the buttons. Like scenes like have a button to end it. You like cut the scene there, right? But it's like and keep rolling.
Yeah.
and keep doing it. Oh yeah, that was funny.
But
too.
we'll hold on to that. We'll hold on. We'll put that in a little box and we'll
Or
get
a big
to it.
box.
It's probably a big box,
Big
and
box.
we'll get to that. But that's what I liked about the movie.
Well,
so
I really liked Doc Ock's like the contraption and that like these
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the
little they had their
tentacles.
little characters themselves and like were I liked that they were kind of alive and doing their own little thing in the background and kind of like the devil on his
Yeah.
back sort of thing.
he named them on set
Did
as
he?
well. He had 4 different names. I can't. The only one I remember is Flo, and that's the tentacle that takes his glasses off and like feeds him the scotch, and she's the grandmother of the tentacles.
Oh, what a lovely tentacle.
I'd love to
no,
see
right?
a cut where the Golden Girls voice each of the tentacles. Right? Can
Oh my
somebody
God.
please do that?
That's
And then
amazing.
email it to me. Information's somewhere
Yes.
there.
Here, maybe.
Oh, maybe there. Oh, it's moving.
You just point to one spot. So I don't have to put, like...
Well, anyway, yeah, that was That would have been cool. I don't know. What did I like? I don't know. I liked it less than I remember. The performances were still good. Somehow I feel the costuming got worse.
I think, yeah.
It was.
I think Spider-Man's costume looked worse in this
It
one
looked
than it did in the
cheaper.
first one.
And it looked like they just had the old costume and it like aged in a box in like Sam Raimi's attic or under the garage and it like got water damage or something and like
But we did say in the commentary track that they did do what we complained about the first one, where Willem Dafoe was completely covered, like face-wise, so we didn't get any of his performance except for his eyes and one scene where we get his mouth, which was really weird. But this one we get all of
That was awesome.
all of the dad
Doc
bod.
Ock. Yeah, all the dad bod. Yeah,
You get a
all the
little
dad bod.
too much.
little too much dad bod. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
'cause
yeah. It was okay. I liked I don't know. The costuming was not good. But I liked some of the set pieces were a little better. The train was not as good as I remembered.
Hold on to it. Hold on to it. Just
I'll hold
remember
on
what
to
you
it.
like.
What I liked.
Oh.
I liked that they had like some loose connection to Star Trek in whatever way that allowed me to talk about that during the podcast. That was good. Yeah, I don't know. That's really shocking. The one thing that's worth it, and I don't know why I've never seen a meme on the internet, if you do watch the 2.1 cut, you get to see Jonah Jameson wearing Spider-Man's costume. Like posing on the desk. I like that.
Like,
So,
it makes no sense in
It
the
makes
story,
no
but
sense.
It's an awesome spectacle to be
yep.
seen.
Yeah, to behold.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's smoking a cigar at the same time while being like,
Mask off.
He's
best.
quite limber. Like,
He is quite limber.
Yeah.
I feel like he
Wow.
got more of the Spider-Man body positioning right than what
Than
Tobey
Tobey
Maguire did. Like, he was really getting into like what was happening there. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was good. I don't know what else. That's it. That's what I liked.
Okay. Wow, that's really fallen on you, bud.
Oh, shit. What hasn't been talked about? Yeah. My brain is like...
Okay.
Yay!
I mean, like, yeah, I like Dr. Octopus. I don't love his plan, but I like Alfred Molina as Doc Ock.
Yeah.
JJ's always great. You know what, honestly, like, it's hard for me to think about. It's like kind of like the last one. I was like, oh yeah, it's nostalgia, but like, they're like the fight scene on the train is good until he takes his mask off.
Yes.
The CGI's a little better in this one. 2 years difference.
What's it? Can I ask you a question? Because you were very like vocal in regards to being like, no, this is a good movie. Like, I have really good thoughts about this movie. You'd watched it a lot as well, and granted, it's been 10 years since you've seen it.
Years, yeah.
So, like, just as a throwback, like, was there anything in particular that stood out in this movie for you when you were a kid that maybe your thought has changed since then? But was there something like, when you first saw it, that you were like, oh wow, this is amazing?
I mean, I just thought of something else I'll just touch back on.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I do like how more unfettered Sam Raimi is in this, where he's like, the pushes in and like just like the silliness of it, and like the Doc Octopus
the tentacle scene in the hospital.
hospital.
Oh,
Great.
yes,
Great.
that was amazing. Yeah,
That was
I
all
liked
Raimi.
that.
Raimi unhinged.
So it's
Raimi
like-
unbound.
I like that about it. Like it's a little brighter. It's a little less mopey than the first one. I wouldn't say it's an easier watch than the first one. Anyway, that's going a different way. And what I liked about it as a kid was Dr. Octopus has always been my favorite Spider-Man villain. So it's
nice.
Dr. Octopus is in it. I love Doc.
Mm-hmm.
So
He's a great villain. I thought of one last thing. I loved, spoiler alert, it was in, like, the nostalgia factor, but the Willem Dafoe cameo at the end.
Yes.
That was ahead of its time. Like, that just didn't happen in movies. Like, Jack Nicholson never showed back up, in another Batman movie. And then we got, like, a throwaway line about Vicky Vale and stuff, right? So,
there's some
that was
Doctor
really
Strange
well done.
references in there too.
Right?
Yeah,
the Doctor
yeah.
Strange 2, right?
Yeah, we had
Maybe
two.
we missed
Baker
more.
Street,
Cool.
and they name dropped him like basically completely.
Doctor
Yeah.
Strange.
No,
That's great.
Taken.
Alright, take it.
Yeah, so,
Well, that's it. perfect.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
crazy.
Well,
I'm sure
let's,
there's more that I'm forgetting, but that's 2 movies deep at this point.
Yeah. We're we're getting kind of loopy.
Pizza is on the way.
So we got a ticking time
As
clock.
is
So
the
we're going to
next
move on to segment 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
segment 2. If you are joining us for the first time, this is where we talk about what we didn't really like about the movie, what didn't resonate too well with us. I'm gonna go last on this one. I want to let everyone else take point
So we're
first.
gonna take some of your points away. So you.
Yeah. So I don't have as much to talk about. That's probably
We're gonna
better.
rein him in.
Yeah. Isaiah, seeing as you went last for what you liked, do you want to kick us off with with this one?
Yeah. I didn't like Dr. Octopus's plan. I thought didn't make any sense. I thought it was like just kind of like really MacGuffin-y or whatever. It was like, oh, I'm gonna build the big thing that's gonna destroy New York. You know,
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
like it fed into that whole like, oh, if I do if we keep doing the same thing, if you do if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results,
that's the
that's
definition of insanity.
yeah, and that's exactly what kind of happened in this movie. So.
And like,
Yeah, we literally went from like a little orby, zorby, bally thing to like a big one.
Yeah, that's
And-
right.
Exactly.
I don't know. For me, it's like Dr. Octopus and Mary Jane. I think because of what we talked about in the first one, I was really more aware of it going into this one and watching this one. Like Mary Jane and Dr. Octopus, like both of their characters are very underserved in this movie. Mary Jane's just there to get into danger, and Dr. Octopus isn't in the movie for like 35 minutes and is like, where'd he go? Oh, there he is. He's building his thing again.
He's been robbing banks and
And
getting science equipment.
I hated pretty much everything about all the scenes they put back into the movie for the 2.1 cut. That's not really the movie's fault.
that elevator scene. Oh
But
my
it's like-
god.
I've only watched the 2.1 cut once, and that was like the last time I watched Spider-Man 2.
A little
And it's
restraint could
just
go a long
not
way.
necessary.
A lot of restraint can go even further.
Yes.
And like, I don't know, like then there's the scene on the train, which is like super schmaltzy, where he loses his thing, and they're all like, "Oh, we love you, Spider-Man," and like all the stuff we talked about in the podcast. Like, there's too much to go into. Really, is like it does. If you watch it too closely, this movie crumbles pretty hard.
Like grains of sand. Oh wait, it
No,
gets
that's
worse.
coming.
Yeah, I think this is like you have to watch it and just go with the tide kind of thing. Because if you break it down too much, there's lots of like missing pieces. It's very disjointed. Yeah, a lot of motives are very confusing. I feel like perhaps there were some character tropes missing. Like I think there was just like for Spider-Man, I feel like there needed to be a grounded person for him to hold on to, which I guess was Aunt May, but she
Yeah.
wasn't really used in that manner to the effect that I think she needed to be used.
She
or-
could have been a lot stronger a character. Like, even though this all happens, it's like, but we have family, Peter. It doesn't matter about the money. It doesn't matter about the things.
Yeah,
like, there was no, like,
sort of
standing
I
up.
felt like there was no one there that was like in his corner feeling what he was feeling or like could relate to him maybe. And he had the flashback to the uncle, which like I kind of acknowledge that, but I feel like they did that because they were
didn't
missing.
have anyone.
So
there
they're
was
like,
no
oh, what can
Obi-Wan.
we can flash back to his uncle because that was his person and we killed him off.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it
now he
was-
doesn't have that person.
Right,
That
and-
gives him that like inspirational nudge.
There were lots of things they could have found that in. And it felt like we point this out in the podcast a lot, but it's the same scene over again, but it's like sub in a different character, but it's the same scene and
Or
the same information.
character
Even
with MJ. They had the exact same conversation of
Like 5 times.
I
at
can't
least.
be with you because yada yada yada.
Yeah, that was really too bad. And like it felt like they were just like this was maybe they filmed like it was a 5-hour cut and they were just like, well, we got to get that actor in because we paid them and we want them to have their moment, and so it's very disjointed. And then they just took like, oh, that was their best scene, so we'll put that one in. Oh, well, it's the same as this scene. It doesn't matter. And you just end up with like Spider-Man has like a series of conversations, and then no talking for like minutes on end of just action. And I don't know. Like if he was gonna do the voiceover and he's always talking, it would have been neat if he's like recording a vlog, or I guess that's ahead of the technology, but, you know, some other angle that would have given us, you know, a view inside his brain. And it was just, it felt like, okay, we're in action mode, okay, we're back out. So that was too bad, but like some of the worst stuff, like it's worse than the first one, I think. And I used to think it was better than the first one, so I think you've convinced me on that. I gotta reassess my score. I like the villain better.
My job is done.
The villain
I feel
is a better
satisfied.
character design. I prefer that you see his face. I like the acting. Willem Dafoe is a strong actor. It's like if they'd given him this approach of like be more human as a character, with that like you can see online the goblin mask they designed and stuff, that would have maybe been better. But it's basically the same movie over again, which is disappointing because it's like they're in exactly the same spot when the movie ends as they were when the movie started. And you know, if you're gonna make 20 Spider-Man movies, that's one thing, but
MJ had less boyfriends though.
she did.
She only had one other boyfriend this time.
But he was
Turned
way
out to be
less
a
of a
Slash fiance.
Yeah, it's a fiance.
He was like 1/5 of a character though, so it was like it didn't matter.
Yeah, plus he seemed like he was a decent dude, and he kind of gets a shit end of the stick, and you're supposed to feel happy about it.
That's
Just-
why we
yeah.
didn't get to see him very much, right? Because we would have been too much on his side. And be like,
Probably,
what a
right?
horrible woman!
Yeah.
Like, what if the guy in the elevator was him? You know, at one point, and he's like, you know, I really respect what you do, and he's like, you know, I'm an
Oh.
astronaut, but
It could have been him.
it could have been him.
That would have been really cool.
Because then that would have made
Humanized him a
his
bit, and then
decision
Right.
more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Like he's like,
Because
I
they
wanna be
kept
a-
zooming in on the engagement ring. Like, they wanted the audience
Yeah.
to know she was engaged.
It's basically, it posits a world where Mary Jane can't date a decent person unless it's Peter.
Which is too bad. It's again that coloring book over comic book. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have more to say in the pitch, but for this, I'm surprised, but you convinced me. I'm probably gonna have to score this lower than Spider-Man. So there you go.
So what didn't you like about it?
Should we unleash Braye?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are giving me a fair bit of time to talk about this. Oh, I'm gonna be pretty concise here, though. Like, there's
There's a lot in the podcast.
there is a lot in the podcast. If you want to hear like my extensive thoughts from the moment the movie starts, check out our commentary track. The biggest thing for me though is like every time I see this movie, oh no,
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Just like that.
Oh, and the pizza's here.
Oh, hang
One
on.
second.
Pause.
1 second.
Ah, saved by the pizza.
Hold my beer.
Yay! All right, pizza's here.
Pizza's
Yay!
Yay!
Okay, so we're gonna continue with what I didn't like. I'm gonna sum this up in one thing.
Wow.
Because this is the thing that sticks with me every single time, and this is probably the thing that I harped on the most about. For me, the whole, like, I understand that they're doing the Spider-Man No More storyline. I totally understand that. I respect that. I don't buy any of the spider powers failing and, like, why it happens and the reasoning for it. Like, I just don't feel like it serves any purpose for the character. I don't feel like the character learns anything from it. I feel like Peter Parker before that happens and Peter Parker after that happening, there's just not a big enough change that makes it justifiable for me. I was kind of saying to you guys in the commentary, like if something like this was to happen in the third movie after some more tragedy or something had happened, then I would buy it. But because it's happening now, it just, I don't know, it's just never sat right with me. And every time I watch this, it's just, that's the thing that sticks with me the most. So that's like my major gripe, because you guys have said pretty much everything else. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Cool.
Yeah, concise.
Alright.
Yeah.
Bang.
Okay, and up next is the ratings. So let's see how we go. Alright, ratings time. So, for those of you joining at home, if you haven't seen this before, this is the part where we rate the movie. 1 is the lowest and 5 is the highest. We do things a little bit differently because our rating system is very inconsistent.
What are we
have
rating
it?
it?
What are we rating it?
Come
We
up
haven't
with
decided.
So I would say
geez.
there's Ock Tentacles, Orby Zorby things, as you quoted for the tritium.
Actually.
Or
Ooh.
what else?
Wow.
Number of emotions that James Franco shows in the movie.
Are we rating this
How
something
many
out of 2? Then it's like a thumbs up, thumbs down thing. Eh?
Really?
Oh, jeez.
Ah, jeez. Or maybe number of like fiery buildings.
Oh, fiery buildings.
Fiery buildings.
Fiery buildings. Nice. I like that.
I'm into that.
Let's go with that. Fiery
Fiery
buildings.
Fiery buildings.
Okay,
Deal.
I'm gonna go first. I'm just gonna spit this out. I rate this movie 1 fiery building out of 5.
Oh, it gets 1.
Wow.
Yeah, just a whole 1. It gets a whole 1, but
Wow.
that's it. I wish I could give it more, but I'm just emotionally distraught when I finished watching this movie, and I can't give it more than that, unfortunately. I wish I could. I really want to like this movie, but I just don't. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start on a low note. Sorry, guys.
No,
I'm
that's
gonna throw that out to you guys to lift it up from there.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop it up just a touch. I'm gonna go a solid 2.
Two fiery
2.
buildings?
So I've definitely enjoyed the first one more. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
Oh, we're gonna get so much internet hate for that.
Yeah, good. Bring it.
I will happily defend.
Fill it out in the comments here and I'll ignore them.
Or send it through. We'll address. We'll have an audience review section at one point in
Well,
time.
we'll see.
Yeah.
yeah, 2.
2?
Two.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Isaiah, Tim, who wants to go first?
I'm gonna just.
Did you guys agree? You guys agreed on number 1 as well.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, we were
Okay.
all like.
3
yeah.
Oh, you guys were all. Yeah. Okay.
I
Sorry.
mean, I'm just
sorry.
gonna drop it down just 1 point, so 2.5.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'll
Just
drop it 1 point.
It's
It's
watching
a
them back
pass.
to back. They don't
even compare.
like the first one's just better. It's just like it's got Willem Dafoe. It's a little easier to watch it through. It doesn't have quite as many like things about it. Like it's a little more simple, I guess, as a movie. Yeah, but no, this one definitely for me it's a 2.5, just half down the middle. I
Yeah.
think I only rated it 0.5 just because of the movie from when I watched it when I was 15 or whatever. So
That's my point. It's the nostalgia, right? Like, you're like, well, we know these characters already, so, oh, it's nice to see them again and their stuff. But it suffers from, like, sequel syndrome big time. And it's just not quite there. Like, Vigo is no Gozer. And unfortunately, Doc Ock is no Green Goblin.
Yeah, Mel, you pointed out at one point in time, like it was like we were seeing the same beat. The flaming building, came in at a very similar point in time in the movie, and it was
saved
just
a
like,
child.
yeah,
And
it
the
was
parents were outside.
they talk to each other in the backyard when he's taking the garbage out again.
Other movies did it better too, right? Like, I'd rather watch Superman 2 again.
Yeah.
Easy than this. And so, yeah.
Because I think there's a good way to nod old material, but then there's a bad way to just copy it.
Yeah, this felt like I didn't really think about it, but yeah, until we started watching it, this did feel like a copy of the arc of Superman 2 for the hero.
Yeah, it seems like they
It's a
had
great
like a
point you
beat
brought up,
sheet,
yeah.
and they just were like,
Checking
they
them off
used
the
the
boxes.
same beat sheet from the first one.
Yeah. If in all fairness though, if I had been rating this 10 years ago, I'd probably have given this a 4.
I would have definitely.
But,
given it a higher
since
score than
then,
the
we've
first
had Logan,
That's
we've had the
fair.
Avengers, we've had, like, Deadpool. They're, like, already that bumps it out of the
Even
top
10
5.
years ago, summer of 2008
Blade 2
was The Dark Knight. which
was The
is
Dark
a
Knight, right?
And
definite game
It's
changer.
pretty rough that we do compare movies of that era to ones
To
we've
this.
seen.
But this at
these
the
days.
time was meant to be that, and so, like, this is no Dark Knight. It's not Batman Begins.
That's true.
even.
Some of them do hold.
Yeah, and so and any time that we think it doesn't, we just have to point back to one of our first podcasts is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1990,
that's true.
which still
actually.
holds up and is
Yeah.
better than all the expensive CG in those other movies. So, so I agree completely. I've dropped it 1 solid point for sequel syndrome. It doesn't quite. It did correct some of our issues, but it presented new ones. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pass. 2.5.
Yeah, it solved some of my problems with the first one, but then just introduced a bunch of new ones, like you said.
Yeah, interesting conundrums. It was kind of cool. But next up is going to be our pitch session.
The best
Hey.
part. Woo! Join us then. Or soon. Or now.
Now. 2 seconds.
We're back, and we have a spider friend over on the wall as
We do.
well.
We have a
Tim
special guest.
is very uncomfortable.
I'm
with
very
that.
uncomfortable
And he's
right
closest to Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I persuaded him not to kill it.
I'm using every spider sense I have to not kill this
So
spider.
if he freaks out at some point in time, you know why. But welcome to our pitch session, where if you are joining us for the first time, then this is the part where we pitch what our thoughts are, what we would have liked to have done if we had some creative control with this movie.
Twill be the day.
Yeah,
Can I go
one
first?
day.
I had
Yeah,
kind
go
of
for it.
a weird flash as we were talking, and my biggest concern during the podcast was introduce the damn black suit earlier. He should have, if they didn't want to go Venom, introduce the black suit, let him wear it. I suggested that John Jameson, the astronaut, have died. Like, he tried to save him, and that could have been the reason for why he rejects the Spider-Man persona. It's, finally he gets somebody killed as Spider-Man. Whoops. And they decide to hate him that way. But then I just started thinking, like, if they're going to go schlocky, and it's called Spider-Man 2, why didn't they have two Spider-Men and have a clone? Like, they could have gone full on and had, like, I don't know. It would have been kind of, if they're going to go schlocky, have a scene in the elevator where it's like two Spider-Mans talking to each other, or...
So we'll go from one of the most iconic, like, Gwen Stacy death moment in the first one to one of the most controversial and hated Spider-Man stories of all time, the Clone Wars
The
saga.
Clone Wars saga. But it might have worked in this kind of movie. Rather than just replay the whole first movie, it would have been neat. And maybe one of the Spider-Mans die and you don't know who, or you have that classic Captain Kirk rolling on the ground fight scene and it's like, wait, which one is it? Which... like, if they're gonna go there and it's called Spider-Man 2, I don't know. You needed this was back to the drawing board, I think.
Yeah.
And they didn't go there, so I would have done something drastically different. Especially knowing that whatever they did, they were gonna get another one. I would have either... Like, they teased the Willem Dafoe reveal, which... Now in hindsight, was the reason I loved this movie as much as I did at the time. I was just like, that had never been done, bringing back a dead villain to haunt them. But I would have rather seen maybe he had begun, maybe when in the first movie he picked the blood up, that Peter dripped off the ceiling. Maybe it turns out he'd grown a Peter in the lab and Harry uncovers it, and then maybe we don't even know when he's on screen, and then at the end of the movie, maybe he doesn't even die. Maybe we set up the Scarlet Spider and, what's his name, Ben Reilly?
Ben Reilly.
Right? So, I don't know. That would have been different, at least, instead of the exact same movie over again, but with, like, less sugar. Right? This was like the Coke Zero version of Spider-Man, and I don't know. So, yeah, I would have done something else. The black costume, though, would have been cool, but if Raimi was absolutely against introducing Venom, I would have gone full Clone Saga.
Nice. Cool. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to...
Oh, fuck, where's the spider gone? Oh, there. Sorry. Sorry. He's here. He's good. He's back.
Sidebar.
Yeah,
Okay.
there he is. There he is.
Mel, you were saying?
I would be really curious to remove the element of the mini Zorby ball thing at the beginning. Just like get rid of it.
Yeah.
But for some noble reason, Dr. Ock is working on this technology for a good reason, and it's very noble. And then he gets partnered up with Peter Parker, and he does experiment on himself, and it slowly integrates, the technology slowly integrates with himself.
Nice.
And it, I don't know, the technology is craving more power or something like that.
Like it's slowly overriding his mind.
Slowly.
So, yeah,
so you
instead of
wouldn't necessarily, there's the odd thing that happens here and there where Peter's like, oh, I'm not sure.
Because it was like the cinematic
what's
equivalent of a
going on
light
here.
switch, right?
Maybe-
Like, light on, light off.
And
Now
maybe
he's evil.
his wife is cluing into something's not quite right. I'm a bit worried about him. Maybe talking to Peter on the side, and then he totally starts looping out with these extra limbs and starts talking to them. So then
that
we
would've been
see this
sick.
scene where he's building his lair, and he's having this conversation with all these little appendages that are coming off.
Voiced
and
by the Golden.
By the Golden
By the
Girls.
Golden Girls.
If they
Absolutely.
could have had the TVs
I was
on and
going there.
channels changed.
I was going
Oh,
there.
that would have been great.
But he's just totally losing his mind with having these conversations, and they're all extensions of his personality, and just gets
That would have
taken
been
away.
great. What if the like signal thing could actually just change the channels with his thoughts? So it's like flashing and like channels are
Yeah.
changing and like Bumblebee, the shitty Bay version of
I was
Bumblebee.
changing the radio station so that he
Right,
could talk. and
so that
stuff.
he could talk. Something along those lines would have been neat.
That would have been interesting.
Wow, so you could have improved this movie by copying Michael Bay.
Well, before you did it.
Ooh.
3 years before you did it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I feel a little bit weird about that.
Yeah.
That comment doesn't sit right.
No.
Do you want to go? You want to take us on a tangent?
It's tough for me to think of how I would have done this movie different because in my mind it's still very like good movie adjacent,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh well, they didn't really fuck it up all the way through, but I mean definitely fix Mary Jane and Peter Parker's relationship. It's so boring, and they do the same thing. They go through this. It's like the Ross and Rachel thing.
Yeah.
That they did over seasons of television in 2 hours, and you're just like, stop getting together and breaking up 100 times in every movie. It's just dumb and old. Dr. Octopus, I wouldn't have made him build the sun thing. I think that was dumb.
Just the arms would have been enough. Like, what if he just designed the arms? Whoa, look, these are cool. They're
Yeah.
for, like,
Give
going
them
into
training,
nuclear
whatever.
facilities.
Because again,
Whatever. It could
right?
be anything.
Nuclear.
That seems like a very... you could have
Nuclear.
made nuclear. Man.
Yeah.
Seems like a very like early 2000s, very early comic book supervillain thing to do, and like make him a little more interesting than that. Make him like more complex, more just a better character.
And they started that. Like, they had that kind of pointless scene, like, join us for dinner. Here's dinner with my wife. Aha, we're laughing and
Yeah.
joking into the night. And it's like, but then he's instantly evil.
Yeah,
Like,
and-
Oh shit, the poetry. I never talked about the poetry on the commentary track. That was just dumb when he's saying poetry to Mary J. Sorry. I'll
he was
stop
reading,
myself.
but
You had your 2 minutes.
I haven't had my 2 minutes yet. Well, not for this,
Or
but the
your
not
negative
liking.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
But-
Sorry.
yeah, just like little tweaks. Give the characters like better through lines, and honestly, like if you're gonna do Spider-Man no more, really just solidly hammer in why he would give up being Spider-Man.
why was he in the comics?
I haven't read that storyline. So
Oh.
It's been a really long time since I've read it, so I don't remember.
It's not in response to Gwen Stacy's death? Or
It's in response to something.
It's it'd be a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
bunch of things.
It's just like
Okay.
because like I think that because of this movie being like that close to being a good movie, it's kind of like fooled people for so long. Into,
Yeah, it really
like,
does.
Like, oh yeah, it's a good movie. It's like, well, it's almost a good movie. So it's kind of hard to like pick exactly what you'd fix. But yeah, like just like the easy stuff. Like Mary Jane's terrible and always is terrible in all of these movies, and fix that. She doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a good point, which is what I would have liked to have seen is carrying over from the first movie, where my original pitch for Spider-Man 1 was that there's more Oscorp stuff, so Peter and Harry work at Oscorp. So I would have liked to have seen Doc Ock be a dark mirror of Spider-Man. So he is the scientist. He comes from a similar background. He's been like beaten down, and nobody respects him, nobody sees him. They really just kind of keep him in this place, and so the only thing that he has is this drive to use his intelligence to save the world. But the way he sees saving the world is in a very warped way. So that's why his drive. But for him, he's the hero of his own story. So for
What
me,
if Doc helped Peter make, when his powers failed, what if he designed web shooters with him? Like, if something that the design was actually that was inspired, like when his powers failed.
yeah, I mean,
You know
I think
what I mean?
I think they definitely could have worked together at
On a
some
project or
point in time.
something, right? Like-
but I think like it would have also been interesting if maybe Harry is just being a real dick to Doc Ock all the time, and like he's beating him down, and then Doc has these tentacles that are his great invention, and then something goes wrong because he's pushing himself, he's trying to be the best that he can, and then suddenly he becomes this monster, and he just goes, well, fuck it, I'm going to embrace who I am because now I have power. And that's what he's always been searching for. He's been searching for power, and then whatever happens from there. I think it's just the drive of the character. Don't make it a foil where it's like, oh, he's redeemable because he's not fully in control of his actions. That just really pissed me off, and it was like, I don't understand why you did that. You did that in the first one as well. So, like, give Doc a real reason. We love Black Panther because Killmonger has such a solid reason for doing what it is that he's doing, and he sees himself in the right. And I feel like this is just one of those instances where you have a character that does that in the comics all the time. They're always trying to do what they feel is right. So
it was you, Isaiah, that said that probably Aquaman is essentially going to be the inverted Black Panther story. It seems like, right?
Yeah.
Like that makes sense. Like we're going to get the Killmonger on the side of good, right? And that would have been really neat. I don't know. And the other thing, like Doc Ock, if he wanted the power and the respect, he should have been more egomaniacal. Like J. Jonah Jameson gives him a name in the paper, but it's not like he was ever in the public persona. Like the Joker in '89 Batman, he goes on the news, he's like, you know, go to your grocery store, he makes a fake commercial, like there's things that happen. How does anyone else besides the viewer and the few people that run into Doc Ock actually know who he is? Like you'd think he would use his powers and like try and build his, you know, maybe he starts a company.
That's the 35 minutes of the movie that we don't see, because we're watching Mary Jane and Peter Parker for that part of the time. So, you know, I'm sure that happens. They're just like, oh, it happens off screen, so it's fine, right?
Yeah, but that's the stuff we would have loved to see.
Invest time into it.
Yeah. But, you know, that is what it is.
Very.
It was a weird experience, though.
Eye-opening,
like,
very eye-opening.
I expected to like it. Yeah, very eye-opening. So
watching it again, it's interesting.
Now I'm kind of scared to rewatch. I'm gonna still say Batman '89 holds up, but now I'm pretty nervous for Batman Returns. I don't think I'm gonna like it as much as I remember I do. No matter how good Michelle Pfeiffer looks.
If you guys are mad at us for not liking it, watch it again yourselves. I mean, when was the last time you watched it?
Yeah,
check it out. It does have a really high rating, and there is a really strong fan base behind this movie. And look, it is good, as we've said. Like, there are definitely moments that, you know, like, it works, but as you say, like, if you're critically looking at it, I think it doesn't work. It's very much one of those movies, if you switch your brain off, if you're not a super Spider-Man fan, then I think you'll have a really good time.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. You can like, share, subscribe, and if you want to see more, just click the link in the description.